Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and a very warm welcome to Monday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. I hate Mondays. I don't know about you, but they're such a depressing day. So if you're depressed today, let me take you on a beautiful DC Odyssey asking the question of who or what will be James Gunn's main villain in his main story arc being catalogued in multiple platforms in cinema, gaming, animation, and streaming. How exciting is this idea in itself? I think it's very, very exciting as a DC fan. I've been here, I've been there, but I'm excited about it, and I'm just really excited to anticipate what James Gunn's going to say. But just like the success of the MCU, some of the success of the MCU is that they used Thanos and they used him well, and they're going to use Kang the Conqueror as effectively. I mean, watch out for the Kang Dynasty, which is an Avengers movie, by the way. You're going to see all these versions of Kang stabbing each other in the back. Why are you talking about that on the DC Universe Daily, Mick? Because one thing correlates with the other. Because you don't have anything. You don't have a film, you don't have a story, you don't have a comic without a great villain. So James Gunn would have thought really deeply about who his villain will be in his main story arc in his first DC Universe arc. Now, basically, James Gunn's DC Universe started in 2021. It did via James Gunn's The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and I think that was a very, very solid start because he was always going to build out his own franchise within his own Suicide Squad universe, but now he can play within anything in the entirety of the DC universe. So now he expands the arc that he was just going to play with in the Suicide Squad universe. So basically last year or the year before, it was touted that James Gunn was developing with some people he was going to work with. He was going to bring in an independent showrunner for it, but there was going to be an Amanda Waller show. It wasn't going to be called The Amanda Waller Show. It wasn't going to be called Amanda Waller. It was a Checkmate show. He was going to introduce Checkmate into the DC EU via his Suicide Squad mini franchise. I think that Checkmate will be the main kind of villain, if you like, in his brand new DC universe. And I think he'll throw Deathstroke in there as well. I think the plan was always to bring in Checkmate and the Deathstroke. I think there were rumours, and there were rumours, about Deathstroke being part of his plans. And he always teased that he was going to work on an HBO Max project that was darker and more serious than Peacemaker. And I think a Peacemaker streaming show was exactly the place he was going to go down, and that's very exciting, thinking of someone as proficient as James Gunn writing Deathstroke. A big challenge for him because we know the kind of stuff he's been known to write, certainly in the comic book genre, in terms of Guardians, the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. They can all have their really kind of gripping emotional elements, but he always reverts back to his humour as well. With Deathstroke, you can't really do that. This is a proper dark, deep character. Is he able to do this? I believe that he is. So I believe Checkmate and Deathstroke will be the main villains within this arc. But Mick, I'm a normie. What the hell is Checkmate? Well, Checkmate is something from DC Comics itself, but it has been referenced in live action very, very well before, and it has been in the guise of the Smallville television show in Season 9 Smallville movie event, Absolute Justice, and an episode of Smallville directed by our very own Clark Kent, Tom Welling, called Checkmate. And some of the stuff he was able visually to achieve in that episode was beautiful. Checkmate is an off-the-books kind of organisation, a bit like Task Force X, but it's more deeper, it's more larger, and it's bigger. First of all, they have code names like, I think, the White Queen, the Red Queen, and, names like that. So that's their kind of code name. So it's a much more deeper, nefarious kind of organization run by Amanda Waller. Now, in Peacemaker, we saw her outed by her very own daughter. So I think the government would have disbanded her in the Checkmate series. Now, probably Checkmate's maybe been another sideline of hers, but now she's going to focus on Checkmate. Now, Black Adam is a very interesting situation before we went to James and Peter running DC Universe. Obviously, his good wife, Jennifer Holland, who plays Amelia Harcourt. Almost forgot her name there. I really didn't want to start the video again. But yeah, Amelia Harcourt was cameoing and, working with Waller as they take Black Adam prisoner in this underwater prison full of a multitude of metahumans. And I believe they were going to use that kind of base. And maybe James Gunn is still going to use it. It's obvious that James must have been consulting with Black Adam just a little bit. Otherwise, Harcourt and Waller wouldn't have been involved in Black Adam. And I was really happy that she was. And this kind of proves how influential Gunn's section of his Suicide Squad universe was going to be in Walter Hamada's DC Extended Universe. And he's going to be even more influential now because he's riding the wave creatively. He's the one setting his stall out. So I think his plans haven't been cancelled. We know he's doing a Peacemaker 2. Basically, the original plan was a Checkmate series. That will probably still happen. But I do believe that Checkmate and Deathstroke are going to be his villains in his one story arc. Some people will be sighing and going, oh, but I want this one, I want that one. Listen, you can't please everyone. Hopefully James Gunn is here for the whole 10 years and beyond, and you can see, many, many different DC villains being catalogued. We've seen Steppenwolf done really well by Zack Snyder, and Darkseid done even better. General Zod, Lex Luthor to effects, differing effects. Some people love him, some people don't. But we've seen all these villains, and Checkmate is something that we haven't seen in a DC movie before. And I think it makes sense that he will bring them up to the plate because they were going to play a big role. And they're very nefarious because basically Amanda Waller isn't necessarily kind of a through and through villain. Basically, she's a control freak. She has her methods to save the world. She wants to control all the metahumans, but it's not just about controlling the heroes and the metahumans. It's about controlling the villains as well. Read it in any DC comics she's in. In fact, if you go and watch the Smallville movie event, when Pam Grier plays Amanda Waller and she says to Icicle just before she murders him, I need them. She manipulates the Justice League of Smallville and basically the Justice Society of America to unite because she's heard that Darkseid and Apocalypse are coming to Earth. And she says, we're going to need them if we're going to survive the oncoming apocalypse. So who knows? Who knows what James is planning? Something similar? I don't know. So basically, the Checkmate headquarters is a grand place. So it's called Checkmate after the game of chess. So if you ever walked into the Checkmate building, and I don't know how many buildings there are, because I don't know that much about it, my reference of knowledge really is via Smallville, yeah. Yes, I'm doing, basically this is a DC YouTube channel, isn't it? And I don't know that much about the comics, but I love DC via my live action experience, and I'm proud of that, and I'm not ashamed of that. Anyway, so if you go into a Checkmate kind of place, the tiles are black and white. They literally look like a chessboard. It's stunning, and I must say, Smallville, you did a fantastic job. It looks absolutely stunning. Imagine, that's a low-budget TV show. Imagine what they could do with a high-budgeted film or streaming series these days. So do I think that Checkmate and Deathstroke are going to be enough for a villain in terms if we compare them with Kang the Conqueror and Thanos? Look, like Kang the Conqueror has abilities, stronger than mere mortals. And obviously so has Thanos. This would be a very kind of domestic thing, But I think that that could be interesting. Now, I could be wrong about this because ultimately, Checkmate and Deathstroke may need to be allies in the end. It could be about a greater threat. What James could do here is use Checkmate and Deathstroke to try and utilize the metahumans to be ready for what a bigger threat is happening. And it could be a huger threat. But what we could be getting here is actually in the first chapter of this one story DC Universe timeline arc, that it is Deathstroke and Checkmate that are the oncoming problem for the brand new Justice League. Whoever's going to be in this Justice League, obviously, James Gunn's brand new Superman, potentially he's bringing in a brand new Batman unless he shocks us and keeps Ben Affleck, and I'm still like 10% kind of thinking maybe he'll keep Affleck, but that's a really low number because it's just kind of a feeling that's itching at the back of my head. I doubt it, but anything's possible. But more than likely, he is going to cast a brand new Batman. So, yes, I think that Checkmate and Deathstroke especially can be a really kind of great kind of first villain to have part of this story. But I do think they are just part of something else that's coming, and that would make sense. Checkmate is a really good thing within the comics, and if you read Checkmate within the comics, or even go and watch what they did with Checkmate in Smallville, you'll see the potential of James Gunn at least doing a Checkmate show in the guise of an Amanda Waller show. So I do feel that, yeah, it could be very, very exciting, and I think, yeah, using, this element at the beginning as a kind of villain would be great. Working, pulling the strings behind the scenes. I think that would be very, very exciting. And I think it's very important that he gets his villain right. Whoever that villain's going to be, Deathstroke or, Checkmate, it has to be done well and it has to be a good threat. And I think, look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. James Gunn has a good handle of the comics. He gets geek culture. That's one thing you can't say he hasn't got. He understands the comics. James Gunn is a clever creative, but he's not opposed to being successful for the sake of the studio so they can make money. And that's something that James Gunn let me say that again, that's something that Zack Snyder simply didn't care about. And that's where the problems began between him and the studio. I've got my vision. I don't care about your bottom line, but I'm sorry, they're giving you money and they're paying you to make something. So you have to care about their profit margins, and you can't just go off the books and do whatever the fuck you want. That's not how this industry or any other industry within a capitalist state works. You need to make money. And that's the problem. The problem with Man of Steel and the breaking of Zod's neck, they didn't care how it would damage the character of Superman as long as they were able to bring Superman in the real world. And that's where the problem is. Now, someone like James Gunn is fully aware that this is a business and you can't upset people to the detriment of the bottom line. So, yeah, I do think Checkmate and Deathstroke would be great villains for the first chapter of DC Universe, and we'll have to see how that works out. But what's more even important than that is that James Gunn shows faith in Superman in his first Superman movie, and when he uses him in DC Universe, something for whoever came up with the idea of sticking Superman in a WWF brawl with Batman in Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, didn't have any faith in Superman. Man of Steel didn't make enough money for them, so they started to lose trust in the character of Superman. It wasn't actually Superman's fault that you got him to break Zod's neck, that you made him blow up a fucking petrol station and not giving a shit who was hurt, who the collateral damage was, because there were cars in that petrol station. So, for me, this is the thing. And, you have to show more faith in the character. It wasn't Zack Snyder who wanted to call the film Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice. It wasn't Zack Snyder's idea to actually do a Batman and Superman movie. It was the studio's idea because it was a money grab. And this is the difference between Feige and what DC were attempting to do badly. Feige had a film like Incredible Hulk, which didn't make a lot of money and, not controversial, but just didn't do the business. But instead of just saying, oh no, it didn't make the money, let's just try and go away from that, they stuck with it. So although Mark Ruffalo was the new casting for Banner and the Hulk, they basically said this is the same Hulk from the Incredible Hulk movie. And going into the Avengers movie, that's how it worked. They weren't ashamed of that. This is a brand new actor, but he's from that movie. That's how you use your, you've got to be focused on that when you're watching this film. So even though, the Incredible Hulk wasn't for everyone, they showed faith in that movie and just carried on and didn't come out saying, oh no, we failed. I mean, WB was saying some serious twisted shit publicly after Man of Steel as well, and BVS and the Suicide Squad, and they came out, executives said, I don't know what to do, it just gets worse and worse. I mean, you're making the decisions, it's nobody else's fault but yours. You really do need someone to grab hold of it and run the thing and mold the thing and understand that you can't keep on shaving against the grain. And James Gunn certainly understands this, and I do expect James Gunn to show more faith in Superman than the people who had the idea of putting Superman in this WWF brawl. In the marketing, some clever cloth came up with the idea to ask who will win. And I think Michael Shannon, the guy who played Zod, the actor who played Zod in Man of Steel, had the best answer for them. I don't care. And the truth is, the general audience didn't care who was going to win. Who told you the audience wanted to see Batman and Superman throw fists? If you told me you were making a movie called Batman vs. Deathstroke, I'm interested in that movie. And if you ask me who will win, I'm going to embrace that question. If you tell me that Batman and Superman, who have been lifelong friends in the comics, are basically going to hate each other, that you've got Superman threatening him not to put on his bat signal again, right? And trying to intimidate Batman, or have Batman, branding people and shit like this. These are where the problems are. And I'm someone who loves Man of Steel and BVS, but I understand the divisive reaction. And that film killed the mood and killed the future of the DC Extended Universe and has brought them here. The MCU delights people, excites people. And I know Phase 4 has been problematic, but actually, at the end of the day, Phase 4 has done some great setup for the future. If you go back and rewatch, Falcon and the Winter, Falcon versus the Winter Soldier. Is that what it is, right? Yeah, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? I think that's what the show was called. It sets up so much. It sets up the next Captain America film, and the villains who are going to be part of another story in another team, in a type of Suicide Squad team as well. So although Phase 4 kind of marked the downturn in kind of box office and a lot more complaints about the MCU than we had before, it still sets so many things up for the future, and that's going to be exciting. Again, I'm diverting to the MCU because it's important. That mentality is here. I hear people saying, oh no, James Gunn's going to turn DC into the MCU. You have to ask the question, is that so bad for their bottom line if they get that right? They don't have to copy and paste the MCU, but it's pretty clear what James Gunn wants to do. One story in a connective universe, just like the MCU, because that's what will make the most money. In cinemas, gaming, animation, and streaming, pull that off, then they'll raise that $3 billion they desperately need really, really quickly, just in sponsorships, let alone box office and HBO Max subs. This is the best way to make money. You can make money by just making individual DC movies, but the excitement will not be there as creating a whole franchise. At its best, the MCU had a lot of excitement. We remember the people and crowds cheering during Endgame. That's the kind of situation we want to see. Unfortunately, Zack Snyder's Justice League didn't have that opportunity to go on a general release in movie theatres so people could cheer and clap it. And I'm sure there would have been that kind of fanfare, but to a much lesser extent as well. So this is an opportunity to create something, because like it or not, this is where we are with movies now. Now, I don't know if the audience have moved on since Endgame. We look at the money being brought in for Avatar, and it says that it's not the MCU that are the kings of cinema right now, or Star Wars, but in fact Jim Cameron and Avatar. The amount of movies he's made that keep on getting this type of money is not an accident. I thought, like many others, because we hadn't had an Avatar film since the first one so many years, that people wouldn't be as interested as they were for the groundbreaking technology of 3D, but it's clear it was never about the 3D. People are interested in getting into the mind and the imagination of Jim Cameron, and I do like the first Avatar. And the second Avatar, again, is an extraordinary movie, you know, visually, but the story, it's trying to say something really, really deep, as the first film did. And, you know, the difference between Marvel and Star Wars is Jim Cameron may be kind of around the ownership of Disney and working within that structure, but there's only one person who's leading the narrative of the Avatar franchise. He told the audience, if you don't go and watch this in cinemas, I won't be able to make the third movie and the fourth movie and the fifth movie and however many movies he's going to make. So the audience said, we want to see more, so they supported the movie. Over $2 billion in the global box office. It's a huge hit. No company is going to say you can't make any more. Probably they would have let him make a third one if this one didn't do so well. So that is what DC and Marvel have to reach to now. DC can see that once the audience sees a potential in a franchise, like in Avatar, that is very interesting because it made a lot of money with the first film, and it's made kind of more money than the first film in the second attempt as well. You look at something like The Force Awakens, huge money, but The Last Jedi, because that was a divisive movie, as divisive as Batman versus Superman, made a lot more money, but made more money than BVS. And ultimately, you know, the third film by J.J. Abrams really struggled to get to that billion, and it did in the end. So this is what DC under James Gunn has to do. It has to excite and motivate its audience enough to support these DC projects financially, whether it's gaming, whether it's movies in the movie theatre or animation or streaming. It's important that people are motivated and excited. So this announcement coming from James Gunn, we're thinking on Tuesday, as soon as it happens, I am going live. So don't worry about that. We are going to be all over these huge announcements. I'm going to make sure that you're informed. I'm going to make sure that you know my opinion. Get your questions ready, by the way. What are your concerns with DC Universe under James Gunn? What are you excited about? Who do you want the main villain to be in this main DC Universe story arc? Get your questions ready for me, because once this news breaks, once this James Gunn DC Universe announcement breaks, we will be going live, and I want a full conversation with you, and I want as many of you on the live video as possible. Going live in Europe is difficult because you've got people in America who might be asleep, or in other countries that might be asleep. So if you see that live notification, wake the fuck up and let's have a conversation, because I believe this is the bestest, most exciting time to be a DC fan. I see some propaganda merchants say that nobody's interested in DC Universe. No, you don't want them to be excited, but thousands of us around the world are excited. You know, so many people are excited about this and are ready and are open to listen to James Gunn's DC Universe ideas. Because as I've said on multiple previous videos, we want to celebrate DC. We want DC to be as epic and as exciting as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's all very well being biased and saying I'm here for this director or that director. I'm here for DC. And I want the people running it to understand that they can do what they want to do with it. We don't have to make those decisions. Oh, we want this character or that villain. It's up to them. They're the ones with experience who know what needs to be done. Although sometimes it's kind of, it beggars belief. You think, wow, these people, they're acting like the amateurs and we're acting like people who actually know what it takes to do these things. But obviously, it's a huge challenge for James Gunn to do this. He's taking over a very, very difficult gig. But I believe he's got the tools to make this a success. And now he has to go and do it. And I know he's made a lot of enemies, because he came out and said he wasn't using Henry Cavill, which upset the Snyderverse stands. It wasn't fair that he was re-announced to be back as Superman and then removed 2 to 3 or 4 months later, or whatever it was. It was messy, but that wasn't James Gunn's fault. James Gunn was honest, stood tall and said, it's not going to happen. I've spoken to Henry. He understands. He probably isn't all right with it. Who would be? But he's even teased about them discussing about other roles he can play within the franchise. He's spoken about Ben Affleck. I've said this repeatedly. Ben Affleck will direct some kind of DC Universe project. That's exciting because Ben Affleck is a really good, critically acclaimed, Oscar-winning director. So that would be huge as well. Who knows what he could be doing. So James Gunn isn't just disbanding the people he's replacing in their current roles. Now, the biggest mystery, of course, is Gal Gadot. She ain't talking. Now, there was a rumour from Variety that she wasn't even involved. Wonder Woman wouldn't be involved at all in the first quarter of the new DC Universe slate, which would be an absolute disaster. Hopefully, this announcement kind of clears up the Wonder Woman situation. Again, we could be in a situation where Gal Gadot decides to remove herself from the Wonder Woman occasion. Now, Geekosity, which is a bit of a site that's not really based on much truth, is claiming that Wonder Woman 3 will no longer be happening under the guise of DC Universe. I believe that. I can see that happening. Patty Jenkins is gone. That vision is gone. Thankfully, Patty Jenkins' involvement was a big concern of mine, and it coming out that she's not going to be involved anymore makes me really happy. The question we have to ask is, does Gal Gadot continue as Wonder Woman? Do you want her to continue as Wonder Woman, or should James Gunn bring in someone new? This is going to be an interesting thing because she's definitely going to cameo in Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and it looks like they're not cutting her from that. There were rumours they're cutting her cameo from the Flash movie. I suspect they won't cut her cameo. I suspect Henry Cavill's cameo will still be in the Flash movie. I hope so. But Gal is very quiet. Now, she said before they announced that Patty was done with Wonder Woman that there were a lot of exciting things to go forward. My gut feeling is that, look, there's half of me who thinks she'll quit. I have a suspicion that she may stay for now. I don't know. I don't think she would want to leave, but she is very quiet. She's not saying anything. Obviously, we're in a situation now where James Gunn is in charge. I just want to say something else as well. Zachary Levi had an opinion, a very controversial opinion, over on Twitter about a company that was one of the companies, many companies that developed the COVID vaccine. And people are saying, oh my God, the poor DC PR department, and comparing what he said with the conduct of Ezra Miller. I'm sorry, it's simply not the same thing. Zach has the right to have any opinion he wants. Everyone, including me and you, are allowed to have any opinion. It doesn't matter how toxic or how wrong you think it is, or even cruel. Everyone has the right to speak. I think people speak too much these days, and there's certain things that we should keep behind our own four walls where nobody can cancel us for it. But everyone wants to speak their truth these days, no matter how controversial. And sometimes the more controversial, the better it is for their platforms. And that's a shame we're in that environment. But what Zach said is something that a lot of people agree with. He has every right to say it, but does he have the responsibility to maybe protect his DC character and the brand by not saying controversial things? I don't know. I think people should be able to say the things that they want to say, but sometimes they need to be mindful of the business they're in. They are in the entertainment industry, and what they say can hurt the brand and the character that they're working for. But I see no need to cancel people and disassociate from people just because they say certain things. There's a YouTube channel called Who addicts who talk about Doctor Who. They said something a bit controversial using their platform on Twitter, and people are disassociating with them. Again, for me, I think it's very important that people get to say their piece. We can disagree with them constructively, but cancelling them, disassociating from them, I think is a terrible cultural situation right now. And if you can't handle, a diverse amount of opinions about a subject, no matter how toxic, it doesn't matter if you agree with them or not, and you can't just agree to disagree, I think we have a really big problem in our society. And guess what? We do have a big problem in our society, and that's my stance on the Zachary Levi situation. But in terms of James Gunn and these upcoming announcements, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, I think as DC fans, if you're a genuine DC fan who doesn't have an agenda, you're not here for that one or that one, you clearly just want to see a great DC connected franchise, I think you should start getting really excited. This has been Monday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives, please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection, and I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen!